Hey everyone, and a really warm welcome, especially to all you expectant parents out there. Today, we're diving into a huge milestone in that first trimester, the Nuchal Translucency scan, or as you'll usually hear it called, the NT scan.
You know, this quote just hits the nail on the head. Because, yeah, it's a medical screening, but it's also so much more. For so many people, it's that first real clear glimpse of their baby. It's a moment that's packed with information, for sure, but also with this incredible sense of connection.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll talk about why it's such a big deal in the first trimester. Then, we'll get into what that fancy term, Nuchal Translucency, actually means. We'll work you through what the scan is actually like, help you make sense of the results, and wrap up with why this scan really truly matters.
Okay, first things first. Let's talk about its place in your pregnancy journey. The NT scan is a major milestone, mostly because it gives us a really clear, really early look at how your baby is doing.
Think of it like a window, a completely safe, non-invasive peek into your baby's world. It just uses sound waves, no radiation, none of that, to give us some incredibly valuable information, all without any risk to you or the baby.
And when it comes to this scan, timing is everything. It's only done in this very specific window, between 11 and 14 weeks. Why? Well, before that, the baby's just a little too tiny, and after that, the very fluid we need to measure gets reabsorbed by the body. So this is the absolute sweet spot to get the clearest picture.
All right, that name, Nuchal Translucency. It sounds super technical, right? But the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. So let's break down exactly what the sonographer is looking for.
So at this exact stage of development, every single baby has this little fluid-filled space at the back of their neck. It's totally normal. What the NT scan does is use a really high-tech ultrasound to measure, very precisely, how thick that little pocket of fluid is.
So why does that one little measurement matter so much? Well, if the thickness is in the typical range, it's generally associated with a lower risk for certain conditions. Now, if it's a bit thicker than average, and this is key, it does not mean something is wrong. It just acts as a little flag, an indicator that suggests a higher probability, which means it's probably a good idea to take a closer look.
And this measurement is a really important piece of the puzzle when screening for several major chromosomal conditions, like Down syndrome, that's trisomy 21, and also Edwards and Patau syndromes. Plus, it can be an early heads-up for certain heart defects or other issues.
So what actually happens when you go in for the appointment? Let's walk through the whole experience step by step so you can feel totally prepared and relaxed when you go.
The process itself is super simple. They'll probably ask you to drink some water about an hour before because a full bladder just helps give a clear picture. The scan is just a regular ultrasound on your belly, totally painless, and it usually takes about 20 to 30 minutes. The sonographer will measure that fluid, check to see if the baby's nasal bone is visible, and of course check on that beautiful little heartbeat.
And I'm going to say this again just for total peace of mind. This scan is completely 100% safe. It uses the exact same ultrasound technology that's been safely used in pregnancies for decades. There is absolutely no radiation involved, period.
Okay, now we get to the part that, let's be honest, can cause the most anxiety for parents, getting and understanding the results. So let's go through this carefully.
This is the question, right? It's on every parent's mind. Seeing a result that's flagged as high risk can feel really scary, so it's so important to understand what that actually means, and what it doesn't.
Okay, deep breath. If you take one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this. A high-risk result is not a diagnosis. The NT scan is a screening test. All it does is identify who might have a higher probability. It doesn't give you a definite answer. In fact, it's really important to know that most babies who have an increased NT measurement are born perfectly healthy. So, if you do get a high-risk result, it's not the end of the road. It's the start of a conversation with your doctor about what's next. They might talk to you about options like NIPT, which is a super accurate blood test, or maybe diagnostic tests like CVS or an amnio, which can give you a conclusive answer.
So let's tie it all together. Why is this one scan considered such a cornerstone of prenatal care? Well, it really all comes down to one thing: the power of knowing things early.
And check out this number. When you combine the NT scan with the maternal blood test, the detection rate for Down syndrome is about 95%. That is an incredibly powerful and reliable screening tool.
And having this information so early in the game is it's empowering. It gives you time to prepare, time to plan. It means you can line up specialist care if it's needed,
and it can seriously reduce the stress of a potential surprise way down the line. And for most parents, it just offers incredible reassurance.
And that's really the bottom line here. This isn't just about numbers on a page. It's about giving you time, options, and a sense of control. It puts you back in the driver's seat, able to make the best, most informed decisions for you and your family.
So, we'll leave you with this to think about. Every single path to parenthood is unique. Information from scans like this is just a tool, a really powerful tool, that can help you navigate your journey with more confidence. The real question is, how will these early insights help shape yours? Thanks so much for watching.
As parents, we're always asking ourselves, is my child just going through a phase, or is something else going on? Are they just growing, or are they really, truly thriving? It's a tough question. So today, we're going to look past the usual annual checkup and dive deep into what a comprehensive health analysis for kids can tell us, what it is, what it finds, and why it's so important.
All right, so here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about those little health signals in our kids that are so easy to brush off. Then we'll introduce a really powerful 39-point health snapshot that brings a ton of clarity. After that, we'll break down exactly what this test uncovers, and most importantly, how we can take all that information and turn it into real positive action.
We've all been there, right? That little nagging feeling. Is my kid just having an off day, or has it been an off week, or even an off month? We're going to start right there, with those subtle patterns that might actually be clues to what's happening under the surface.
This is really the heart of it, isn't it? It's the difference between just getting by and truly flourishing. And figuring that out is why taking a deeper look at their health can be such a game changer. Okay, first up, constant fatigue. It's so easy to just say, oh, they're growing, but when a child is just wiped out all the time, it can be a major red flag for something like anemia. Think about it. It's like asking them to do their homework when they feel like they haven't slept in days. Anemia can literally sap the energy they need to learn, to play, and just be a kid.
Or what about that one child who seems to catch every single cold that goes around? You feel like you're just in this endless cycle of sniffles and coughs. Well, it might not just be bad luck. It could actually be a sign that their immune system is struggling, maybe because of a nutritional gap that we just can't see.
And then there are the physical signs, like pale skin, maybe brittle nails, or just a really poor appetite that never seems to improve. These aren't just little quirks, They can be direct visual clues that your child might be low on essential nutrients like iron.
So the big question is, how do we get from worrying about all these little signs to actually getting some concrete answers? Well, the solution is a comprehensive health panel that gives you a clear, data-driven picture of what's going on inside your child's body.
And the key to this whole thing is the number 39. That's right, this single checkup looks at 39 different health markers. It creates this incredibly detailed picture that can flag a whole range of potential issues all in one go.
What's really amazing is that all 39 of these crucial data points come from just 2 simple samples, blood and urine. The whole process is designed to be as easy as possible for kids, giving you the most insight with the least amount of fuss.
Let's break down how it works. It's really 3 core parts. First, there's a complete blood count, or CBC. This looks at all the cells in the blood. Think of the red blood cells as little delivery trucks for oxygen and energy, and the white blood cells as the soldiers of the immune system. Second, it checks for key nutrients like vitamin D and iron. And third, a full urine analysis checks in on kidney function and hydration levels.
So you get all this data back, but what does it actually mean? This is where we connect the dots and see how these numbers translate into a really clear picture of your child's health.
This is where you can see how it all fits together. The complete blood count can pinpoint why they have low energy. The nutrient panel checks for those common deficiencies that are so important for strong bones and a healthy immune system. And the urine analysis, that can catch things like hidden UTIs before they become a bigger problem. And here's the real aha moment. The symptoms we see on the outside, the tiredness, the trouble concentrating, always being sick, that's just the tip of the iceberg. This test dives deeper to find the actual root cause, things like low iron or an unnoticed infection, and those are the things we can actually fix. And where you live really matters too. For instance, the source material this is based on highlights that in a place like Dubai, vitamin D deficiency is super common. And it makes sense, right? A more indoor lifestyle means a lot less sun exposure. It just goes to show how certain checks can be even more important depending on your circumstances.
Okay, but getting the results is really just step 1. The real power comes from what you do with that information. So let's talk about how to turn these answers into real, meaningful action for your child.
The benefits are just huge. You go from constantly reacting to illnesses to proactively catching things early. This means you can prevent long-term problems. You finally get answers for those symptoms you've been worried about, and you set up a health baseline for their future. And honestly, it's about getting true peace of mind for yourself.
And let's be clear, the stakes are pretty high. If these common issues go unchecked, they can lead to serious long-term consequences. We're talking about things like learning delays from chronic anemia, or even potential kidney damage from untreated infections.
But here's the really good news. Even though those risks sound scary, the reality is that once you know what's going on, the vast majority of these common childhood conditions are actually pretty straightforward to treat.
And the solutions? They're often way simpler than you'd think. We're not talking about complicated, intense treatments here. Often, getting a child back to feeling their best involves simple but powerful steps, like adding more iron-rich foods to their diet, taking a vitamin supplement, or maybe a short course of medication for an infection.
So we'll end on this thought. For the small effort of just 2 simple samples, you can get this incredible, deep understanding of your child's health. You can give them the foundation they need to really, truly thrive. So the question is, what could that knowledge unlock for your family?